Up, guys? JDB Sports back at it again for another week. We're back to it. We're gonna be doing what everybody else is doing now with the post draft grades. Any rumors that we hear cooking up. I have one for you. Gabe Taylor is actually going to rookie minicamp with the Commanders. Sean Taylor's younger brother, I believe. Um, Played strong safety out of Rice. He was he's a little undersized, so they're going to see what they can do. Maybe put him at free safety if they're lucky, or maybe some slot corner if he makes the team. But there was a big tweet out there talking about the Eagles getting Gabe Taylor, and it's just not true. It's false. Yeah, so I guess the Eagles have a little bit of mental illnesses going on their side, trying to fake us out or whatever, getting the great Sean Taylor's brother. So we'll see how he lives up to the hype. I mean, with him being a little undersized, I think the free safety move would be the best. Maybe a backup or even backup slot corner behind Samer still and things like that. We'll see, depending on how good he is during OTAs, minicamp, and if he even gets the extension. So without further ado, we have more draft coverage. We're doing 16 teams tonight, and we'll do 16 teams next week. So we're not sitting here bogging you all down today. So without further ado, we can get into these Arizona Cardinals. We're going in alphabetical order by city, so some divisions may be incomplete, but it is what it is. At the end of next stream, we will have the full list of divisional breakdowns, record predictions, and all that going forward. I'll have that on the big screen. So let's get to these Arizona Cardinals. Needs entering the draft per NFL.com. Offensive line, wide receiver, edge, defensive line, and cornerback. Their best pick, I got to say, was Will Johnson. Widely considered a first-round pick. Arizona got him at pick 47. His stock fell due to lingering injury. He's a risk as far as that goes, with injury histories, but, they addressed a much-desired need, and I feel like they got a ball-hawking guy there at pick 47 when he was expected to be, first round. So, I gave him a 9-8 record here, and nothing really much changed. I think I gave him a one-game swing. I think I gave him 8-9 pre-draft, and a B plus for their draft grade, in my opinion. What you got?
Yeah, I follow a lot of the same sentiments as you. Was super shocked seeing Will Johnson fall out of the first round, first and foremost. Even despite the injury concerns, I feel like the Bills, were in a good spot to take him at 30, but that's neither here nor there. I, of course, love that pick, but I love the first three picks. They really all stand out to me as value. Walter Nolan, rumors to go as high as 9. He drops to 16. Great pick up there along the defensive line. You got Will Johnson at 47, and then Jordan Burch, underrated edge out of Oregon. He gets there in the third round even. I think it's a phenomenal draft. I give it a B plus as well. I think they could have addressed wide receiver a little bit more, maybe a little more on that offensive line to push him up, and I'd give him that 9-8 record as well. So,
Okay. I guess we're in great agreement there. B plus draft for the Arizona Cardinals. Their free agency wasn't too bad either. So let's see if they actually stay relevant next year in the NFC West and not be basement dwellers like a certain team that I have slated. But we'll talk about them later. Next is Atlanta Falcons. Amid the Kirko drama, amid the Michael Penix Jr. starting drama, amid the apparently 3-week-old rumor that he may be shipped off to Cleveland. We'll see. It is what it is. There's still a lot, decent amount can unfold or whatever between now and June 1st or even after that. So their needs entering the draft are edge, defensive line, offensive line, safety, and cornerback. Their best pick was obviously Jalen Walker. Getting 2 edges in the first round seems kind of desperate, but outside of his character concerns, I enjoyed this pick. The Georgia alum is staying in Georgia with the homegrown Falcons. Who do you feel is best pick, and then we can get on the records and grades here, so we're not just
yeah. No, I love the Jalen Walker pick. Him falling to, I believe it was 15, surprised me a lot. I thought he was going to go earlier. The Panthers were a team. I thought they picked perfectly at 10, and we'll talk about that later. I think Xavier Watts is a really good pick out of Notre Dame. I had him graded almost in the first round as a safety, and he's the second best safety in the class, in my opinion. I feel like they got some really strong player there. So love that. But as far as your record prediction goes and draft grade.
They only got one game up. I previously predicted a 5-12 record for them last year, 6-11. Iffy free agency, and not really much changing here. I mean, yeah, you get your edges, you secure that outside on that defensive line, but at the same time, you got to look at it. There's so much going against the Falcons here this year, especially with their situation and the drama at quarterback. Can Kyle Pitts actually catch the ball next year? We'll see, or hold on to it. Um, I gave him a C. They didn't address the offensive line until round 7 when Josh Simmons and Josh Connolly were available at 26. Just kind of a whiff, in my opinion. I mean, yeah, getting Jalen Walker. I don't know. I feel like the more need was at offensive line there for him. The pressure showed against the Commanders when we played them, I believe, week 17. Yeah, we were getting pressure on Penix, and it was a crap fest, really. What do you think about them? What do you give them the grade?
I'm definitely more harsh with my grade than a C. I would give him a D plus to a D. As far as needs go, again, I love the first 3 picks being Jalen Walker, James Pierce Jr., and Xavier Watts. But when you have to spend an additional first round pick to go out and get James Pierce, when he, in my eyes, is shaky because of his size, that confuses me a little bit. I wish they addressed offense earlier. Like you had mentioned, offensive line. I like that they went out and got a tackle in round 7. I don't necessarily think they should have picked, an offensive tackle in round 1, but maybe in round 3 or 4, instead of one of your safety picks, you go offensive line instead. And I'm going with an 8-9 record. I think that the defense is below average. I think the offense is just going to carve out enough to float around 500 in a bad division.
Or Falcons, especially when they got the Panthers in that division, really tearing crap up this offseason, but we'll talk about them later. We got the Ravens going next. They need offensive line, cornerback, safety, defensive line, and edge. I believe getting Mike Green is a controversial pick here at 59, but I think that's the best pick. He slid down. He was supposed to be top 10. Character aside, they got him for basically a bag of chips as far as first round picks go. I mean, sliding down to 59 is crazy. But then you saw Shedeur going around 5, so we'll talk about that one later too. Supposed to go top 10. Let's see how they deal with his pending cases against him. Like how they drafted Tucker's replacement here too, but at the same time, you're literally shipping one out just to bring in another, in a sense.
Yeah.
I hate to say it like that.
No, I can see that sentiment for sure. So you said your favorite player was Mike Green. Yeah, I'd have to share that sentiment too.
Maybe Tyler Loop.
Yeah, I really like the depth in this Ravens class, and I think that's what bolsters it to be so good. Of course, you have the top 2 picks that speak for themselves, Malachi Starks and then Mike Green as well. But a lot of talent outside of that as well. You get Aeneas Peebles, you get LeJounte Webster, you get Tyler Loop, who again looks to be a Justin Tucker replacement. And they addressed all their needs as well. You look in big needs in the secondary to complement what they already have there, especially at safety. Now you have Malachi Starks and Kyle Hamilton, which is just going to wreak havoc and, bolster that defense. What do you think as far as records go, and then grades as well?
I'm hitting a 10-7, 10-7 in a division that's going to be competitive, regardless of the Cleveland Browns mock-up at quarterback, and then the Steelers situation where you're starting Mason Rudolph. 10-7. Don't think we did a pre-draft record for this team. I think it was after we started doing when we did the other divisions. We didn't do this one per se. I went back on the notes. I didn't see one. So, but with Jackson Henry making that defense even stronger with Mike Green, I really like them to be competitive, especially with the question marks. Like I said, the Steelers quarterback position in the dumpster fire in Cleveland with their multiple quarterbacks and, obviously Joe Flacco.
Yeah.
And obviously Deshaun Watson still on roster depending on what they decide to do with him.
Mm-hmm.
Give him an A.
Give him an A. Okay. I love it all.
They passed boating school flying colors, man.
Mm-hmm. Always do, dude. Okay, so as I see it, I hate to be in agreement with you so much on these draft grades, at least because I got an A as well. Um, a little better at an 11-6 record, just because I feel like that division is going to be much weaker this year than it has been the previous two. As
Yeah.
far as the Bengals go, I think the Bengals will get a little better, and we'll talk about them in a bit. But I still think the Ravens have a stronghold on this division, and they should be chugging for another division title this year.
Chugga Chugga Choo Choo by Derrick Henry. Let's go. We got to the Bills next in the AFC East. They need cornerback, defensive line, wide receiver, edge, and safety going into the draft. Maxwell Hairston at pick 30. The blazing fast corner fits a direct position of need, with Elam being dealt away too. So, not really too much to say about the rest of their class. So it's kind of one I kind of dig a little deep for in terms of doing my research. But what you got about this Bills draft class? What you think about them?
Yeah, I think it's really solid, especially you look in rounds 3 and rounds 4. I think they got 2 value picks on defense. You look at a Landon Jackson out of Arkansas, Dion Walker out of Kentucky. These are 2 guys that rush the passer. Excuse my chewing, extremely well, and they address their needs pretty much round by round in terms of importance. You handle corner first and Maxwell Hairston. You get a TJ Sanders in round 2. I think it's a stud draft for them. I have them at a B plus and an 11-6 record. What do you have them at?
11-6. I don't know why I keep going back to the 17 game format. I said 11-5. Obviously, me thinking old school. 11-6 as well. I give them a B too. They didn't address all their needs, particularly at safety and wide receiver. Even with the 7th round choice, I mean, yeah, it's a 7th round wide receiver. How much is that one really likely to stick? Um, they they really did need to shore up that corner spot, and they have. So I give them, yeah, give them a B, and 11-5 record. I feel like they're either taking the East or it's going to be kind of like necked with the Patriots, but more or less, I think it's going to be like maybe it might be a 2 game swing, but we'll get to that.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah, 2 game swing in my opinion. We'll see because schedule's still got to come out and we'll have more information there. Probably
Yeah.
doing one of these again, so we're sitting there just breaking down certain team schedules and all that. All right. We got the Panthers, which by far, in my opinion, had the best free agency and one of the best drafts too. So I like the fact that they got Princely at pick 77 and Nick Scorton at pick 59, man. So I kind of couldn't pick. I couldn't pick who was the best because they were both, top, all the end of the first round picks. So I think we had Nick Scorton going to Philadelphia in one of our first mock drafts. Then we had Princely going to Philadelphia again in the second mock draft. So Lily, 31-32 pick at 77 and 59 is crazy. Um, like I said, had these guys going in round 1. They addressed immediate needs in the draft. One of the most brilliant off seasons in my point of analysis, really.
Yeah. I think it. I don't think they really could have done much better this draft at all. I think this is one of my favorite drafts for sure. You address all your needs. You get a bona fide blue chip prospect in Tedero McMillan at 8. You go back to back edge when your defensive line interior is really good, but those edges can need work. So you solidify that defensive line. And then you have value picks with Trevor Etienne and Mitchell Evans in the 4th and 5th rounds as well to kind of round it all out.
Is Etienne related?
Yeah, he is. He is younger brother.
All right, so I want to talk about Ted McMillan real quick and Travis Hunter. Just real quick, kind of a little bit of an off-topic skew, but just something I want to bring up. So me and Brandon were playing Ultimate Team with Ted McMillan. He was their wide receiver 1. Obviously, he got the Panthers draft card. He got Travis Hunter at safety. Now, Travis Hunter is bad against bigger receivers on Madden. Technically, you would think the same thing on paper because, he's 185 pounds soaking wet. So, and he's, it is what it is. They could bully him around a little bit, but I've noticed when we play with Travis Hunter at strong safety, I believe, either strong or free safety, one of those two. I'm not exactly sure. It's been a little bit since we played, but we had him he would get burned deep by speedsters, by like big receivers, big speedy receivers. But the small guys, he would stick right on like glue. Calvin Johnson was a better safety, in my opinion. But when I user Travis Hunter, his makeup speed is one of the best as far as playing Ultimate Team, in my opinion. And then Tedero McMillan, you get a guy that's in press coverage. He's going straight up the field and getting and burning them, which is surprising because you didn't think that his speed would be that high, saying that how slow his top end was in real life. Then they gave him a 97 in Madden, so
Yeah.
pretty good. That's some of the plays that we've been running, and we're in the playoffs right now. So let's hope we can get to the Super Bowl and get that first championship of my Madden career. So let's go. All right, I just wanted to say that because Ted McMillan on the Panthers, love the pick. Honestly, I gotta go with that one too. Like it's a kind of a three-way, and I don't want to do that because it's like, oh, well, anybody's gonna say their first three picks were great. Come on. I'm not trying to be like everybody else, but I like that Ted McMillan pick. I was kind of wary on his top end speed and his physicality on certain top of his routes or whatever, but it is what it is. He's going to have success at the NFL, especially in that Panthers being an alpha.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what Brandon's most worried about Bryce Young. He thinks he doesn't know if they're going to get a hot or a cold Bryce Young. I said you give it Bryce Young time, especially with the weapons that he has now, because he was really only throwing to Leggett and Johnson last year. So
yeah, and Adam Thielen. It's just a weird group.
Don't talk bad about Adam Thielen to him. He loves Adam Thielen. So.
They signed Hunter Renfrow as well. In case you guys on stream don't know.
No, I didn't know. He actually texted me a couple days ago and asked if he was retired, and I told him, I said no, he's a free agent. He just hasn't played since last year. So
apparently he got really sick last year and dropped 30 pounds, and that's the reason why he didn't play. And he's working his way back up to playing weight, and he should be good to go by regular season. So
there you go. Got Hunter Renfrow now. There you go. Next is the Bears, another team that had a successful offseason, in my opinion.
Did you say grade and record for Panthers by chance?
No. Sorry, guys. Sorry, Panthers fans. Sorry, Brent. All right. A+. Can't give them anything better. I mean, I'm going to sit here and give them like an A++ or some type of freaking magical grade of like an E or something. I don't know. Excellent. Or an S tier. I don't know. We should do a tier. We should do a tier list for drafts. Well, okay. for the team drafts maybe, but I gave them 11-5 record, and I still think they're winning the South, man. I still think that's my take. I'm gonna stick behind it. They're winning the South, just like I think the Titans are winning the AFC South with Cam Ward. So
my opinion's changed on that, but we will talk about that later. I'm in agreement with you here. 10-7 Panthers, A+ grade, money, win the division.
Brandon just came in just in time. We're just talking about your Panthers, A+. Winning the division, he said 10-7. I said 11-6. I keep saying 11-5. What the hell's wrong with me? Anyways, masterclass of an offseason. Be happy to be a Panthers fan, and just don't listen to what he said about Adam Thielen and your last year's receivers. We'll go ahead on with it.
Now Chicago Bears.
All right, let's get on to the Bears with Ben Johnson, Caleb Williams. All right, they need offensive line, defensive line, running back, safety, and tight end. Best pick is Colston Loveland. Had him going to the Chargers, but what can you do? Slid up a lot of people's boards, and Caleb Williams gets a big body tight end to throw to, on top of Luther Burden, which is crazy. I didn't think they would actually get Luther Burden. I thought he would have went in the first round. Yeah, exactly. Many people had him going in the first round. The Bears addressed their needs quite effectively, in my opinion, as they look for sustained success under their first year under Ben Johnson. Let's get this 4-13 team up to a playoff berth, man. Got them going 11-5, A- for the draft and free agency.
11-6.
11-6. Jesus Christ, what's wrong with me? 11-6.
You're good. Always adds up to 17. When in doubt, count it out.
Go back to the 16 games, man. Go back to the 16 games.
Again, I seem in sentiment with you here again. My favorite pick, in all honesty, I like Kyle Monangai in the 7th round as a running back, little undersized, great in pass protection, kind of a gadget player, but has a ton of girth at that size. No Diddy.
Yeah, I was
And
about to say you better fix that.
I think that's a steal there. I like how they went with Colston Loveland over Tyler Warren just because of how their offense is planning to function. I feel like a Loveland better fits that role. You get a steal in Luther Burden at the top of the second and a Shamar Turner as well in the second round, who I like a lot.
And get you
10
that
and,
Debo Samuel comp with Luther Burden. So
heck yeah. 10-7, A minus for me.
11-6, A- for me.
Heck yeah.
All right, we got the Cincinnati Bengals. Edge, safety, linebacker, offensive line, and cornerback. Shamar Stewart at pick 17. Tiny bit of a reach. Would have liked him more towards the end of the first round, top of the second. But he's a player that can get really aggressive and get the pressure needed. Though with only 4.5 sacks, his production is definitely questioned, and I feel like that's why he would have slid down many people's boards. Let's hope he can finish to the next level, man. Turn them pressures into sacks, especially in that AFC North with the likes of Lamar Jackson running around. Can he finish plays and chase him down, or even Mason Rudolph? I mean, more or less statuesque compared to Jackson, of course, but sure he can move if he has to. I mean, can he finish? We'll see.
We will see. And I mean, watching a man finish is quite a beautiful thing sometimes, but
Quite
sometimes
a
we got
Diddy moment, huh?
yeah. um, so as far as the Bengals draft goes, again, every need possible on defense besides linebacker, in my opinion, which is actually the position they address most in the draft. Um, just confusing at times. I do think they got great value and great players within themselves. However, addressing needs does seem to be a little bit of a problem here. I love the Taj Brooks pick in the 6th round. I feel like he's a really underrated back in this class. Demetrius Knight Jr., one of the best coverage linebackers in the 2nd round as well. Really liked him. I think I had him as my linebacker 2 or 3 behind Jahad Campbell and Carson Swessinger, who we'll get to in just a second. But I have a C grade and a 9-8 record.
Yep. Yeah. I went 9-8, same thing, and I had a B record. Didn't address all the needs, but they got that edge that they hope, his production or lack thereof was just a fluke. Quick shout out to Claire. Quick shout out to Joyce, to Brandon on TikTok. Thanks for coming in. Thanks for hanging out with us. Listen. We got 16 teams going on tonight. We're on team 7, so let's get to it. Stick around, follow, like, and subscribe.
Yeah.
We'll do part 2 next week.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So we got the Browns next.
Yep.
Quarterback, one of the most controversial drafts we're going over today. So, cornerback, offensive line, edge, running back, and wide receivers, what they needed. Trading down and still getting Mason Graham was a win, plus getting Shedeur for a bag of chips as opposed to a first-round pick. No fifth-year option for that quarterback. Don't understand why they drafted Dylan Gabriel and what their intentions are. You could have gotten way better for that 3rd-round pick. Why Dylan Gabriel? What are y'all doing? Y'all just throwing stuff at the wall and hoping something sticks, or what? What's going on?
Yeah, I didn't think Dylan Gabriel was going to go until the 5th round, anyways.
So it's a massive reach to say the least. I got them going 6-11. Yeah, I got them going 6-11 next year, depending on the circus they have at their quarterback position this offseason and what they're going to do with Deshaun Watson, Joe Flacco, Kenny Pickett, Dylan Gabriel, and Shedeur Sanders.
Yeah.
I think Shedeur,
room, huh?
Yeah, I think Shedeur at least gets a backup spot, if not gets to start at some point in the year. This is not what I had in mind when Myles Garrett said that they had a plan at quarterback. Not what I had in mind at all, man. Gave him a D grade myself too, so.
Yeah, I don't mind. I don't mind that one bit. Again, I think my favorite pick out of this draft is, I think it has to be trading down and still getting Mason Graham here. Outside of that, I would probably say Quinshon Judkins. Really slept on running, or not slept on running back, but really solid wide receiver out of Ohio State. Could be a real 3-down back in the NFL. Have him at 6-11 with the C- grade. I think they address their needs fine. However, doubling up on QB and running back is kind of a question mark to me. You can even go D plus, D. I wouldn't really be mad at you.
A lot of people say the Browns had a decent draft, even though they got two quarterbacks and two running backs. But I digress. That's why opinions are opinions, and everything's we're an opinion here too. You like us, you don't like us. It is what it is. But at the same time, stop agreeing with me, man.
I know, right? We got to disagree on one. And
Something.
again, we consulted, or I at least consulted your notes prior to this, and I actually didn't look at the grades for any of them.
Which is kind of wild. Yeah, it's kind of wild. It shows where our headspace really is. But hitting the Cowboys next. One who kind of had like a equally off, well, not like an equally surprising off season. It's Jerry Jones. What do you expect? They need a wide receiver, running back, cornerback, linebacker, and defensive line. Donovan Azaraku was probably the best pick. Having to deal with the likes of Saquon Barkley, I got that mixed up. Jaden Daniels, Saquon Barkley, and Cam Scatterbo with the Giants. First round pick seemed like, Jerry does what Jerry does best. And he kind of fell asleep at the controls. He was on the clock. He's like, oh, just pick anybody. Pick anybody. Protect Dak. He doesn't need to get injured again. But, no, rounds 2 and 3 make up for it. Getting good in that edge department, which they really need, especially with, the addition also of Dante Fowler, too, which is a 10.5 sack man from the Commanders last year. Don't want to talk about our edge situation with the Commanders right now, but we should have kept Fowler at that point. I mean, Cleveland Farrell is not going to cut it, I believe. But hey, I gotta trust in Adam Peters and see what's going on. But anyways, back to the Cowboys division rival here. I got them going 7-10. Gave them a C plus. They reached on that first round pick, but addressed the main needs. Wish they would have grabbed a wide receiver here. But hey, you can't get everyone that you see on the board. I thought they should have got Luther Burden, in my opinion. I'd give it a solid number 2 to CeeDee Lamb. But I guess Tyler Booker, for protection purposes, is more in mind with Sam Martin retiring and things like that. So,
yeah.
Freaking Cowboys.
I think this is the biggest disagreement thus far, at least on record. So that's a positive thing.
Finally!
Right? I share the same sentiment as you. Of course, their 1, 2, 3 is nice. Kind of a trend we're getting into with a lot of these teams is their 1, 2, 3 is really good. Tyler Booker, I think they should have traded down. I think they could have gotten him at, if you're really thinking teams who kind of picked offensive line back into the 20s, I don't know. You can find some team to trade back, though, and they didn't. But again, Donovan Azaraku, Siobhan Revel, they make up for it in an instant. I also think the Jaden Blue pick out of Texas is really good. Extremely fast back, good contact balance, whole 9 yards there. You go B- grade, so we're not too far off in regards to that. But I have the Cowboys going 9-8. I think they were. I know. I still think they're a solid team in the mix of the playoff picture. They do get the third easiest record out of any of these NFC East teams, and I think they're more competitive in these NFC East games. So
let me ask you something. It's kind of looking ahead a little bit, but the Giants. You have the Giants taking last place still.
Yeah.
Damn. I guess Dallas is still going to smack them around. We'll see. With Russell Wilson starting, I mean, look, man, just start Jackson Dart and stop trying to make things happen. Russell Wilson's washed, and especially on a Giants team like that.
Yeah, I don't know who you throw out there. I hate all their quarterbacks. Like, as far as starting wise, they're good people. Like, all three are good people, but trash.
I got to love Jameis Winston.
He's a good person, though.
It's funny how he asked Saquon Barkley for a job, and they said the Giants are looking for a quarterback, and the Giants got him.
Shout out Saquon for that.
Yeah, man, still got some ties, even though he literally bashed him in playing against them, and then he turned around and won a Super Bowl with the Philadelphia. So I guess no hard feelings. I mean, they got their quarterback now. Many of it. It's kind of one of those things that I'm kind of surprised they traded back up for Jackson Dart when you have Jameis Winston on the roster, when you have Russell Wilson. You think they would have tanked and maybe got like Arch Manning next year or something like that. trying to keep the Manning legacy alive. I don't know, what are they trying to do? They're grasping at straws there, and I think Joe Sheen might have just drafted his last draft as a New York Giant.
I think it's to save jobs. It's
Well,
to
then
save
again,
jobs. They
it's
want
that's
they want some product out there.
yeah, but if you're starting a season in desperation, it can only get worse, dude. It can only get worse.
Agreed. But from the inside looking out, they don't see it like that. Again,
Then again,
they gotta protect themselves.
Shane's son can call a better freaking trade and draft than he could.
Yeah.
Oh, sign Saquon Barkley. Don't let him go to a division rival. Oh, well, no, we're just going to let him do it anyway. Screw what you say. You're only like, what, 10, 15, 20, 10, 15 years old? Something like that.
Right.
And shoot, poor Giants. We'll get to them when we talk about them, but they got enough of the tongue lashing. Yeah, I hate everybody in the NFC East equally. I'm just going to say that right now. But at the same time, bias aside for this sports stream, it is what it is. We'll just throw our opinions out there as we see fit. Like, I'm sure Peyton over there doesn't like certain AFC West teams, but, it is what it is. We're about to talk about one right now with the Broncos. They got a running back need, wide receiver need, cornerback, tight end, and defensive line going into the draft. Jahdae Barron, my favorite cornerback one, outside of Travis Hunter. I think Travis Hunter's a better wide receiver in the NFL, in my opinion, than he is cornerback. But we'll see. I mean, that's probably unpopular opinion, but I think Jahdae Barron was CB1 on my draft board. He fell down boards, and the Broncos stopped his fall to address the need. I like him there. He's pretty scrappy. We'll see how he does with the likes of Pat Surtain on the other side too. I got them going 10-7 in an ultra competitive division. They could miss the playoffs or potentially make that 7th seed with that same record they had last year. So their defense should be incredibly solid this year with Barron and Pat Surtain on the other side, locking up receivers. Gave them a B grade. What you got?
Heck yeah. Um, Again, my favorite pick in their draft, at least, is probably Q Robinson, edge in the 4th round. However, I really like the Jahdae Barron pick there. I think it took a lot of people by surprise as well. You think that the Broncos are going with the playmaker no matter what, whether that's an Omarion Hampton at 20, whether that's, I thought they were going to trade up, in all honesty. I'm shocked they didn't. Or taking like a Matt. Yeah. They were looking, what picks were they looking at? I think the Cardinals, at 16, they were calling, and a couple other teams as well. I think the Dolphins were in that group, but couldn't really trade up for any playmakers and decided to stick and pick Jahdae Barron. Huge versatile guy. I think that's a stud pick. I think it just adds to their defense. I wish they would have added more to that wide receiver room, however. I think RJ Harvey is a great back in the 2nd round, maybe a little rich, but I got him at a 9-8 record too. I think this division is extremely difficult, especially the Raiders, who we'll talk about next week, having such a great draft as well. And I haven't had a B- grade in Broncos. So
a B minus, kind of the same thing. Detroit Lions, this is probably where we're going to disagree the most. Again, like we did pre-draft. I'm just going to say right now, I stuck with my 7-10 prediction, in my opinion. I stuck with it. I don't know if you read that, but I don't know if you thought that was kind of a typo, but no, I'm sticking with it. They needed edge, offensive line, safety, defensive line, wide receiver, entering the draft. Tyleik Williams at pick 28. Get the best DT available at that point in time. Great infusion of talent, and getting a need address as well, especially dealing with that NFC North. You definitely need a nice run stuff in DT, one that can get some pressure on the quarterback. I got them going 7-10. Like I said, sticking to my guns here with my pre-draft position. A lot of people are giving the Lions a C to C plus range in their draft grades. I think they get a B, addressing their needs for sure. Don't think these players move the needle much for me in terms of overall team standpoint. But like I said, I got a B. I'll be a little bit better on them, but I still think 7-10 is the record. What you got, man?
we agree on the draft grade. Let's start out with that. Let's start out with what we agree with. I think the B is a perfect spot for them. You don't get the high end kind of wide receiver talent you were looking for in this draft. And I mean, first round, you had to go edge or defensive tackle, and I don't mind the Tyleek Williams pick at all first round. I love the Tate Ratledge and love the Miles Frazier picks in rounds 2 and rounds 5. I think that gives you a great foundation on your offensive line, and it fills in the holes that you're needing on that offensive line now with the departure of a Kevin Zeitler. So I think those picks are really nice. I landed a B, but I landed a 10-7 record. I think that the 8-game fall off is a little too steep. And, you're right. Someone has to lose these games in an ultra competitive division. I can see them falling off, but I can't see them not with a winning record. After all the injuries they faced last year and still being that good, I think their roster is too good not to be at least fighting for the playoffs.
That's why I said opinions are opinions, and everybody's got them.
Yep.
Just depends on who decides to be right at the end of the year. We'll see what happens. With 11 teams down, we got 5 more to go. The Packers now, they need a cornerback, wide receiver, edge, defensive line, and offensive line. Kind of gave them some flack on their free agency. Wasn't really as productive as you would have liked, especially when you got Jair Alexander potentially leaving or rumors thereof. And also I heard Jalen Ramsey's, they're trying to shop him too or whatever. Maybe you can shed some light on that one. Kind of saw that on a Facebook reel too. So didn't expect Matthew Golden to fall to them, but I like the pick. Jordan Love finally gets somebody outside Christian Watson to throw to.
Yeah, I like the pick as well. I think Golden is a good, I wouldn't say like a one-trick pony. I think it just adds another element to that offense, however. But I think that's their only good pick. And I give them a D and a 10-7 record. What about you?
I said 10-7 and C. Sticking to my guns, after a crazy bad free agency, they had their draft consisted of needs-based filling through the end. I didn't really think they went for best player available, more or less just needs. First 3 picks were offensive line and wide receiver. Wish they would have definitely addressed that defense a little bit more, especially they're needed cornerback and then defensive line too. So
yeah, I think they should have addressed corner a lot more as well. And doubling up receiver in the 3rd round with Savion Williams isn't my favorite pick either. So definitely some room for improvement for the Packers offseason, and we both share that opinion.
Okay, so I got some history news to drop on you because with the Packers, I think it was since 2002, first wide receiver drafted in round 1.
Yeah, they didn't draft a wide receiver since 2002 in the 1st round. Crazy to think about. With their quarterback.
Crazy indeed. I was only 5 at the time, and 2002 was so much different back then. You had the Buccaneers and the Buccaneers and the Raiders in the Super Bowl. So
back when.
Yeah, way back in the day, eating cereal and watching cartoons, sit on the couch. But all right, you ready to hit those Texans?
Oh, I'm ready to hit them Texans. Horn is up.
I think we said the same. I think you said the exact same thing the last time we talked about the Texans team. Anyways, offensive line, wide receiver, defensive line, cornerback, and safety are the needs entering the draft. They got Ariante Arisi. Let me just say that maybe.
Ariante Ursary.
All right, pick 48. Slated to go earlier. This is a good value pick with the loss of Lamry Tunsil. I feel like they're kind of reeling a deal in there with that loss right there. Like you said, they should have just ate the money in our last, maybe a stream or two ago. They addressed needs in this draft, particularly at wide receiver. Not entirely sure why they got Graham Mertz in the 6th round, though. Really don't understand that pick. 9-8, my record is. I think they take a step back, still reeling from the loss of Laramie Tunsil and Stephon Diggs, as well as Tank Dell being out for this year. The draft helped out, but a wasted pick on Graham Mertz is questionable. Probably hating on him a little too much, but at the same time, why draft a quarterback? I don't understand. C+ grade, in my opinion.
And what was your record for them again?
9-8.
9-8, okay. I have a 9-8 record as well. Our draft grades are actually pretty split, however. I have them at a D-, and I'll explain why.
Trying to be nice here. Trying to be nice.
and I respect it. Um, in all honesty, I don't mind the Texans trading out of the first round. Um, however, your pick, your first pick, in my opinion, has to be offensive line, and it has to be a current position of need. Um,
They kind of
Ariante,
had.
yeah,
Sorry,
sorry,
they
go
kind of
ahead.
had. They kind of had to. Like I said, reeling from that loss, and then what do you have replacing that? Cam Robinson, I believe they said was.
Exactly. And I mean, Ariante Ursary is a left tackle. I just don't see why you would go left tackle right here unless it was, someone you're planning to start over Cam Robinson or in a similar vein to him. I don't mind the Jaden Higgins or Jalen Noel picks in the slightest. I think those are two really good wide receivers out of Iowa State. Yeah, the Graham Mertz pick confuses me. Uh,
Man should be
yeah,
working at Hertz instead.
yeah. And Woody Marks, not a good pick in the fourth round for me. They should have addressed offensive line much more, and I debated giving them an F.
Oh damn! All right, maybe I might change that grade down to like a D minus or something. You said D minus to an F, but at the same time, this draft, in my opinion, just from the average fan look on the outside in, I'm not a Texans fan like that. We did cover them in depth with their free agency and stuff, but it literally just looks like this draft was a straight reel and deal. They're just reeling from their losses that they could have prevented here. What was the point of trading Laramie Tunsil a cap casualty move or a cap move? What is the deal? You're literally just going to draft his replacement, wasting a pick. I mean, trading out of the first round is decent. I mean, they had multiple picks later on, but at the same time, literally losing him and drafting his replacement, losing Stephon Diggs and trying to draft their replacement, it's just like it's not going to work out. And I think that they're not going to hold the division this year. The Texans fans in the comments on our shorts talking about, oh, well, they're going to keep the control of the division and the Titans ain't going anywhere and their defense is porous, which is really not. They have a solid defense in the Tennessee Titans. With Cam Ward, and then they have, like you said, J.C. Latham, Lloyd Cushenberry, Wataje Spears, and damn, who's the other one?
Tony Pollard.
I forgot about him. That man's a man out, but gotta look at it this way. I mean, the Texans, bad draft, man. Bad management. D'Amico Ryans kind of doesn't really get the help he's going to need. Too much reeling and dealing instead of just stepping forward. I'm saying one step forward and one step forward with getting Laramie Tunsil off the books, but 2 steps back with the draft that you're having because you have to replace him. So,
Yeah.
hate it.
Agreed.
All right, the Indianapolis Colts, another AFC South. Oh yeah, AFC South team. I kind of get these mixed up sometimes. It is what it is. Just like my freaking 16 game skids instead of 17. And I'm still living old school, I guess, back in the 2010s era or so.
Mm-hmm.
Tight end, offensive line, linebacker, edge, and running back for the Colts entering the draft is what they needed. Tyler Warren at pick 14 all the way. AR5 gets the protection and another out in the passing game. Depending if he has a starting job or not, if it's DJ or whatever. 7-10 for the Colts, in my opinion. I think the notable upgrades of other teams like the Jags and the Titans. The Colts are on the outside looking in, kind of like the Texans where it is. I just feel like they take last place because somebody has to be in last place. Somebody's got to lose. But I could be wrong. This is a sense of way too early. Record predictions. It's not even OTAs and minicamp yet. Like, come on now. Minicamp's next month.
Yeah.
So.
But I don't mind any of that. Would you have their draft ranks?
B minus.
B minus. Okay. Yeah, I got 7-10 and B plus. I'd say they did a little better in the draft, and Tyler Warren fell into their lap, so that definitely helps.
Yeah, really.
But I think they got value in a couple of these other rounds. You get JT Tulamolu in the second round, great edge. You get DJ Giddens in the fifth round, value running back. And then Riley Leonard, capable backup with some tools that could project him to be, a spot starter as well in this confused Colts room in the sixth round. So love all of that. I give him a B plus, 7-10. I think they addressed their needs well. Could have been more value in the later rounds, but I'll take it.
For sure. Got to still say, Braden, thanks for being here. People like Becky and Sean, thanks for coming in, watching us up. Got a Discord server right up there, above Peyton's head up there. Go ahead and screenshot this chat. Get in that QR code. Join our Discord server. We talk about it. We got bunch of fan ramblings. Y'all can say what y'all want. Y'all not gonna get banned. We're not pansies. It is what it is. We're '90s and early 2000s kids, so we're not gonna take any flack. Y'all can come in, post your draft ramblings. Um, Obviously, mock drafts are kind of over at this point, but you can post record predictions, how undrafted free agents are going to post out. Y'all can post memes, do whatever y'all want. Y'all can post the E to W meme if y'all want to a million times. I don't care. Come in and show us some engagement, show them some love, and get on this community. We're waiting for you. We're ready. All right. We got the Jaguars up next, man. You got the defensive. Huh? Duval. The community. Duval. Stupid. He did a retake on that, and it was just, oh man, I liked his original one better.
You got to roll with it. You got to accept it at that point.
Yeah, really. They need defensive line, cornerback, safety, offensive line, and wide receiver. Travis Hunter at pick number 2 is obviously their best pick. 2 needs in 1. I was kind of a Travis Hunter hater before. Didn't think he could play 2 positions. Still think he's a better wide receiver here, but at the same time, Trevor Lawrence is going to love throwing to him. So, depending on what he does, they could have done more to address the defensive line. Not having a second round pick doesn't really help matters here either. So you're kind of slim pickings as it is going third and beyond. Give him a 9-8 record, go blow for the Texans. Well, with the Texans, they could potentially toss it up, and the Jaguars can win more. I gave him an A grade for the draft.
Okay, I think that's fair. I think as far as records go, I actually have them in, as crazy as I'm going to sound, I have them winning the tiebreaker in the division at this point and winning 9-8 in the division.
Do you think the Titans are gonna win the division over the Titans? You think so?
I think
I know we got
the
Titans
Titans for me. The Titans for me are actually my third team now, as I've reevaluated.
Dang it! All right.
So some differing opinions there. Yeah. I think you addressed both of your biggest needs in one, if not 2 of your biggest 3 needs in one player in Travis Hunter. I think that's a slam dunk pick. As far as the rest of the draft goes, though, I do think it's a bit disappointing. Bashal Tutin, is a good pick in the 4th round as a running back. Yeah, he's tooting it up, dude, all the way back there. I think, they addressed a little bit of the offensive line. I do like the linebacker picks. Again, you don't get a stud on that defensive line, which you were alluding to a little bit earlier. So I give him a little bit of a harsher grade at that B- just because 9-8 they slot in.
Well, according to Matt, and Travis Hunter can play safety too. So, like I said, just don't throw any big body tight ends at him that have some speed. Excuse me. No big body tight ends that can show some speed, or big body receivers, because he's getting bullied around. But I guess in Madden he can hold his own. So he can play 3 positions, not just 2. Maybe he can even play kicker. Maybe he can even play freaking third down scat back. I have no freaking idea what they're going to have him do. And apparently, I saw a meme online about Travis Hunter too, talking about each time that he goes to change, each time the possessions change, whether he goes to play offense or defense, he's gonna wear number 21 in defense and 12 in offense. It was dumb. So imagine every time he goes to change positions, they turn around and he used to change his jersey every time. That's stupid, but I think 12 is pretty universal. You can have that as a cornerback. Cecil Green, what's up, man? Brandon, how you doing? Keeping it up. We're just going over our last 2 teams. Like I said, y'all drop a follow. We'll go into the next 16 next week, as well as record predictions. Way too early to tell. And like we all say, opinions are opinions. We're all going to have them, and we would appreciate yours down in the comment in our Discord server as well. So, yeah, it is what it is. I mean, you said you have them going blow for the division.
winning the tiebreak at 9-8.
And I had them in second place at 9-8 with the Texans. So,
Okay.
but let's go to the Chiefs, man. The Super Bowl hangover finalists. Yeah. All right. Needs entering the draft for the Chiefs were defensive line, offensive line, edge, safety, and wide receiver. They kind of needed everything, especially how the Eagles really pushed them around. Their offensive line was looking like, a high school football team. Josh Simmons was the best pick at 32. Like this move for him. Expected Simmons to go higher to the Chiefs, well, than the Chiefs. They got a steal, in my opinion. Should have done some work to get a safety other than what they did. They did good in getting some needs addressed, though. I'm going to go in 10-7 with an ultra competitive division this year. Expected Chiefs to take a step down, and I know it's probably an unpopular opinion because everybody's all Mahomie this, Mahomie that, but I think the Chargers are winning the division this year. Either Chargers or Raiders. It might be a toss up right there. 10-7. They definitely take a step down in their Super Bowl hangover year. Give them a B+ for their draft, though. Can't hate on it, though.
Heck yeah. I think we're right about even as far as our Chiefs predictions go. I'm a little more optimistic. I think they're 11-6 with an A- grade. I think I'm a notch up because you said 10-7 B+. I think that fits in perfectly. Again, ultra competitive division. I have no clue who's gonna finish first. However, about finishing last, it's got to be the Broncos or the Raiders, but that's neither here nor there. I think Omar Norman Lott in the second round is a huge value pick. You look at someone who is being mocked in the first round at times and someone who has extreme explosiveness off the line of scrimmage. I feel like him and Chris Jones are just going to wreak havoc, kind of doing different things great. Noel Williams in the third round at corner at Cal, really good player there. And Jalen Royals in the fourth round as well out of Utah State. Huge boundary guy, quick, great hands. I think that just adds to their wide receiver core, and he's an instant wide receiver 3 for me there. So good job, Chiefs. And unfortunately, everyone in the Chargers division had a great draft. So
They're a little sad and sour about it, but we'll talk about your Chargers next week. Like I said, we did 16 teams today. We're gonna do 16 next week, kind of keeping it fresh. Some teams we didn't cover. We'll get right to it. Drop follows, guys. Drop likes. We'll be back here at a new time starting next week. It'll be Tuesdays at 9:30. This is going up until the NFL season. During the season, it'll be the best opportunity to get in, follow us on our journey throughout the rest of the off season when no one else does, when everybody else decides to take that break for the off season. Like I said, Tuesdays at 9:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Be here. Be great.
Be there, be square.
Be there, be square. Hop in our Discord server. We let y'all know. Y'all can ramble. Y'all can do whatever y'all want up in there. Just keep it classy. Until then, it's been JDB Sports with part 1 of the draft analysis. We'll be back for part 2 next week. You guys have a good one.